Hello, Internets. I'm HamsterBomb.
And I'm Timothy.
And this is HITBOX, the gaming podcast where we just kind of sit back and talk about whatever we darn well feel like talking about in the world of video games. And this time, we're doing another one of those deep dives, though I had the idea, I kind of want to call these a round two. Because that's still video gaming, and we're talking about it a second time. No, we're not. No. We talked about that in a previous one.
No. I was going to say, I thought you wanted to talk about it, a post-review or something like that.
Basically, but yeah, the whole idea in calling it a round two is so that you know we're looking at this a second time. These HITBOX episodes where we just focus on a single game for the whole episode is something that we want to really spend more time on, and it's something that I've already reviewed on Playing With Myself. And as you can tell, this one we're going to be doing Persona 5. We're actually playing Persona 5 Royal. Here's Kim's shiny steelbook case that she definitely would want me to show off at one point in here. And I want to make sure we talk about this one. One, because I'm trying to stall for time for episode 100 of Playing With Myself. That has nothing to do with this. But two, since the Royal has recently come out on the Nintendo Switch, and Kim has gotten sucked into it yet again, she's going to be playing through where she just happens to be right now in her file, so don't worry about any visual spoilers. She's just in the third palace, right?
Yeah, it's the third palace.
So she's not too far. We're going to see it. We're just like playing through the anime intro, of course, as they do change that. There's a lot of things that are different and added in this version, and we will get into that.
A lot of quality of life changes that I wanted to talk about in this version versus the original Persona 5. Not even the first Royal that came out, but the original.
The first Royal.
That's the PS4 one.
Yeah,
so.
What's really interesting from what I've heard, the Nintendo Switch version of the Royal actually runs faster than the PS4 Pro version.
I hate calling it the Royal because it's called Persona 5
It's called Royal. Even in my review, I said the Royal. I said the Royal so many times I just couldn't stop myself. Just like the other, I've already lost it.
Post review.
Round two.
Round two.
Fight.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Oh, yeah. How about you change your outfits? That's some of the DLC stuff that you get for free with Royal. Kim loves Catherine.
Lovely DLC, yes.
Right, so she's dressed up in the Catherine stuff. And you really, if you are only listening to this episode, you're not going to be missing too much. We're still just going to be talking about the game itself. This is just something that Kim is visually going to entertain us with while we do our thing and just talk about the game.
So let's see if I can try to play a game and
talk about it at the same time.
Yeah, this sounds difficult for me.
101 streamer skills that you got to be able to figure out.
I am so bad at that because I'll just get like enveloped in the game and just kind of ignore whatever's happening.
Well, at least the beginning of this, I'm going to take. So for a round two, we did both go through my original recording that I did for the episode, and I was even thinking, I almost never want to change my review scores, but I felt like this one, I was surprised at how harsh I was just with Hamster reviewing it, because this game is so different to other RPGs that it's kind of hard to give it a standard where, say, for example, this game gives you, I brought this up like twice, it'll give you question prompts or like multiple things you can say to answer somebody, and it doesn't really matter. What?
I'm out of SP!
Oh, you have 2 SP? But anyway, say somebody gives you a couple options and it still doesn't influence the story at all. But the thing is, from playing games that do this poorly, they'll give you multiple options for your character, and no matter what you said, they say the same thing and just move on.
Electricity!
There's a difference between that and what Persona does. Persona gives you those options so that you can add character and personality to play Joker the way that you would. How would you say that? And it actually does influence the conversation of how they say things back to you.
This is something that I want to get into later with the gameplay.
Sure.
This is not part of the intro, you know?
Okay, fine.
I have a long list of those things to talk about when we get to the game.
I just know I was going to forget about it. Anyway, so before we get too deep into it, I just know that was something in the video that I did. That's why I was saying it. In the actual video itself, I think that's why I rated it more poorly, but it should have been a lot higher. We'll get to the rated section when we get to that point. But also another thing I could not cram into a 12-minute video is how this game even happened. It's a really, really strange series, how this jumped from all over the place. So this actually, similar to The Witcher, started started with a novel, and I'd like to get my hands on an English copy if that's even a thing that exists.
I don't know if that's possible.
I don't know.
There's a lot of things we don't get translated in America.
Right, and I can't imagine that's something that's on a lot of people's lists. But the book was Digital Devil Summoner, which got a NES game made by Atlas called Digital Devil Summoner Megami Tensei. And that is kind of the first game where we kind of see this. There's basically demons that you can recruit and summon, and yeah, it's kind of the first monster recruitment Pokemon-esque kind of games. Beating Digimon to it as well. It wasn't even put in my Digimon video where I made the joke of like, what does the monster recruitment thing first? I went the Dragon Quest route so I could make the joke happen better, but anyway, so it was technically Shin Megami Tensei, which I'm not even at Shin Megami Tensei. We were just at Digital Devil Summoner Megami Tensei, which got a sequel on the NES. And then the next game was only on Super Famicom, so a Japanese exclusive game, and Atlas kind of wanted to reboot the game, and I think that's for the best. The first one doesn't really have their personality in it yet. They were just kind of trying to figure out how to make a video game about like what that novel was. And so they recreated it, and they called it Shin Megami Tensei. So if you know, like Shin Godzilla, Shin just means new, so it was the new Megami Tensei. Megami Tensei is, I believe it's reincarnation of the goddess, so the new reincarnation of the goddess. And there's always some sort of staple in the Shin Megami Tensei series of some way that it's going back on that. And that is kind of considered to be the base series, even though I just explained it's kind of a secondary thing from another game, which came from a book. And recently we got the 5th of the Shin Megami Tensei games. They've had a really weird history. They started, like I said, on the Super Famicom. There was a sequel on the Super Famicom, and then nothing until the PS2 where you get Shin Megami Tensei 3, also ported to the Switch and remastered. And then Shin Megami Tensei 4 is on the 3DS. And then Megami Tensei 5 we know is on the Nintendo Switch. Another really weird side thing that they've done was the Soul Hackers series. The full title of that is Digital Devil Summoner Soul Hackers. The second one we recently just got on the Nintendo Switch. That is basically the 3rd and 4th of the original NES games getting sequels. Like nowadays, that kind of stuff never happens. I forgot to mention it, but the Sega Saturn had its own game, Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner, which is actually the missing link between those NES games and the Soul Hacker series that I'm talking about. And so I'm not surprised it didn't sell as well because it's so niche, but it's really cool that it's there. So if you're enjoying games like this, there are tons more to jump into. It doesn't just mean that, which Persona do I play next? Do I play 3 or 4, which are both coming to the Switch in January, another big thing to look forward to. But I would also look at all this Shin Megami Tensei stuff, which is less so the school stuff and more just the RPG with the demons, because they are your party members.
But I feel like the RPG aspect of it works a lot different between the two of them.
It does. The transition, the way that even happened at all, also on the Super Famicom, there was another game called Shin Megami Tensei If, and the idea was, what if instead of this apocalypse happening where demons invade the human world, it's the other way around, and a whole school full of students, teachers, all of that, is transported into the demon world. And you can kind of see how that is like the first stepping stone to make the first Persona. And meaning the next game on the PlayStation 1 was Revelations Persona, where they full on do that idea where these school kids are able to like summon demons and use them to RPG battle their way to stop monumental threats. The sequel was also on the PlayStation 1. And then Persona also jumped around a bit, just like Shin Megami Tensei. Persona 3 was on the... What did you just do? What did you just do?
I was so focused on what you were saying, I let like everybody die.
She's not good at this game. She just loves this game.
Not good at like any game.
We didn't promise good gameplay to watch. We promised gameplay to watch. That's a big difference.
I'm sorry, that should have been my disclaimer at the beginning. I am not good at games. I am not a speedrunner. I am not...
Okay, Persona 3 was on the PS2, and it did get some reworkings done. Persona 3 FES and Persona 3 Portable, meaning you could play it on the PSP, which is where Persona moved after that, which is where you'll find Persona 4. Though nowadays you're going to find them on the Switch, a much better home for both of them, I think. Persona 5 is on everything. You can actually measure the distance of time between Persona releases, and this, from Persona 5 through Persona 4, is by far the longest wait we've had for a new game of waiting for Persona 6. So it's coming. It has to be coming soon. This game did so well, there's no way they're not making a Persona 6 right now. I just have a feeling that it's taken them a lot of time and it's a lot of work. So that's how we got to this really weird game where you're a bunch of high school students with demon-inspired Persona-esque superpowers invading people's brains and trying to make them confess that, well, that's specifically 5. The other Personas are
Correct.
all kind of different. It's weird. But anyway, I have said enough about just how the series came to be. We're gonna try and once again go through step by step of each of the segments that I do in the actual episodes and how we review the game. So first off, I guess, is just our first impressions of it. I've already said mine.
Sound good?
Kim, that was your chance. Tell us what your...
Yes, thank you for...
You just, like, tried to charm that Orobus.
It was fine. He liked it.
Yeah, he definitely did. He's sparkling now.
No, he's gonna explode. So that's a...
Oh, yeah, that's a new thing in the Royal.
That's a Royal thing, so...
Yeah,
But we're not to that.
There's so many new things, we can't even fit them all into one of these episodes. Seriously, we can't.
When I first saw this game, I was watching Alex play it, the original Persona 5, so not Royal.
PS4.
And I was like loving it. Like I was like, oh, finally another JRPG I should play, which it kind of stinks that it took us this long to get into this series because Atlas has done some fantastic video game work.
Yeah, we've since played a lot of Atlas's stuff, and weirdly enough, after playing this, the next game in the franchise I played was a fan translation of Shin Megami Tensei.
Oh, no, it wasn't. Not if we're looking at Atlas as a whole.
No, I'm saying of this franchise.
Okay.
Of this franchise, that was the next one I played. Obviously, I played Catherine, because I also reviewed that. I think I reviewed it after, like, I had done this. This was one of the earlier reviews I did.
It was. It took me a while to scroll down through your list.
Though it had to have been one of them where I had green screen, because I did the Arsene thing where I was, like, both versions of Hamster and Bomb.
So anyway, I was saying that I was watching Alex just playing it, and I was like, well, I have to play this. And it's funny because we didn't even buy the game. We were borrowing it because we thought we're not going to like it that much. We're not going to own a copy of it. So then after that, I started playing it, fell in love with it, but I was complaining a lot about like the time constraints, the day-to-day like school life. I didn't like it at first. All I wanted was to just fight RPG style the entire time.
Yeah, which actually kind of stunk because you played on safety, correct?
I did play on safety on the first time.
Which safety is for players who just want to maximize the school life part and minimize the RPG.
Right, so I was really bummed that I played on safety because you played on safety first and you were like, I recommend it if you just want to get the story. And I'm like, I was really bummed out about the actual fights in general. They were just like way too easy for me.
She's playing on normal now, for the record.
I am playing on normal.
That's why she just died.
I wasn't paying attention. I was listening to your full-on...
no, it's why she died. That's why she died.
History of Atlas Shin Megami Tensei. I'm sorry, no, Digital Devil.
I don't even know what you would call this. We're just saying Persona, just to make it simple. People know what we're talking about.
So since then, since my first time playing it through, I love it now. It's fine. I
love it. It's fine.
I love it. It's great. Well, I realized after I finished the original Persona 5, it was... I should finish that.
Yeah, big difference.
That is on my next playing list,
Revelations
though. I'm going to play
Persona.
Revelations.
I was going to say, you never played that?
No, not yet. I just kept thinking about this game and thinking about it and thinking about it and then realized, no, I probably do really like this game and the school aspect of it really didn't bother me that much. And now that I'm playing Royal, I am loving the school aspect because now I have a better understanding of how one affects the other.
Yeah,
and
they're very intertwined.
That's something we'll get into a little bit more at the gameplay. So now I'm like, okay, we got to play all the Personas, and it's funny because
I just wanted to play all the Shin Megami Tensei.
Well, it's funny because at first I thought I'm gonna be the one that's more into Shin Megami Tensei and not so much into Persona.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now the roles kind of flip because
I thought I would
Alex
be into the Persona
playing...
ones and not the Shin Megami Tensei. It's completely the opposite.
Right.
Yeah, I after beating the first Shin Megami Tensei, I'm playing these in the stupidest order. I'm playing the fourth one now, which, like I said,
Right.
as you would probably know, 3 and 5 are probably the biggest ones, and I like bouncing around those. So I'm gonna go back and play 2 probably after 4, and then Kim wants to play Persona 1.
I do want to play Persona Revelations.
And 3 and 4 are coming out very soon on the Switch. I don't know what we're gonna do. There's too many big RPGs
I know.
to play all
Well,
at
yeah,
once.
I want to play 3 and 4. Well, your first experience with Persona was actually 3.
Yeah, it was. I didn't really get a chance to talk much about that in the review itself. I think my honest issues with Persona 3 really involved how Matt and I recording it, everything was going wrong technically. There were so many like bugs with like our recording software. We would get so frustrated, like we'd realize after we record like an hour segment and we saved that our mic wasn't working and the whole thing's trash, or like we have to start over some other segment, and it was just unbearable. And I think that whole vibe, because that was the only time I was playing the game, was at his place with his equipment, and it was the equipment letting me down, and I was just kind of like getting that vibe with the game, and it wasn't the game's fault.
Yeah, and he tells me like what the story is and like the vibe of 3, and I'm like, I think I'd really like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about, so.
And we're also getting to see some of the personas from those games in the Royal. There I go again. In Persona 5 Royal. P5R. How about that? P5R. It's in this game as free DLC. So you can actually recruit a lot of those demons, and they just give them to you. And of course, Kim doesn't want to let go of them, giving her a huge money problem because she doesn't have the right confidants.
I had 9 yen to my name the other day. 9 yen.
I saw it.
I didn't say I was good at games, guys.
Because that's another thing we didn't mention. There's a lot of little things in this game. Like, you need to have... We're in the gameplay segment.
This is the gameplay.
You need to have the right Persona class. What is that called? Like the tarot card names?
Arcana.
Arcanas. See, it's different in SMT. They need the right Arcana if you're going to hang out with a certain character who has that Arcana. So if you want to level them up faster, say she's in the Lover's Persona. So you need to have a Pixie, right? I think it's a Lover's.
Pixie is Lover's.
Right, so you need to have one of them that is in the same Arcana. That way they get extra points towards hanging out with them, which levels them up faster. And the more you level up hanging out with that person, they give you more benefits in here when you're in the metaverse and you're fighting all these monsters. It might power up their baton passes, or I think that weird sexy dance thing you did on one of the Orobas was one of her abilities.
Right. So I want to talk more in detail about all of this.
I know.
You just got so ahead of where I was going to start this at.
Yeah, I basically did my thing. I explained SMT off the top of my head. Now it's your turn. Tell us everything you wanted to say about Persona 5.
So first thing I want to start out with the gameplay is your day-to-day activities. There's some days that are just totally automatic and you don't really have much choice and you're just watching a movie.
Yeah, so you might not even have the ability to save.
Right, so you've got to be prepared for things like that. Oh, dang it.
Oh my god, I didn't get to say this in mine, but in that same vein, this happened at least 3 times in my playthrough where I had borrowed DVDs and they were going to be overdue and I had to turn them in on a certain day, but I didn't realize that upcoming was a week of days that were all pre-planned and they were all going on a vacation or something, and it they didn't tell me. And,
okay, back
which
up
they
here.
fixed it. It's not
a quality of life.
The little things that bothered me, they fixed in Royal. Yes, I know. But that happened.
So your days, they are scheduled, but you influence what you want to do, which he was talking about before with how you want to spend your time, what you want to spend your time doing. I can't play this game while
died
people are
again?
watching. I am so focused on what we're trying to talk about, I could not play this game.
Do you want me to play?
I have never died in this game up until this.
I have talked with her all the time while she's been playing with this game before. It is you that is the factor that's changing this.
I can't do it. So yeah, some of your days are automatic, so you gotta plan out wisely. Unfortunately, this is a game where I do heavily recommend you have a guide handy, even if it's not a day-to-day guide. Just check if you're gonna be doing something in the next few days that's gonna prevent you from saving, or you have to go and you have to get your personas out, affect certain confidant levels.
Or maybe how to fuse certain ones, get certain abilities on others, which is required at certain points in the game to level up some confidants. Yeah, there's a lot of bits where you might just find it in handy. Like, I know you have a tab just for giving you hints at, like, the crossword puzzles, which are new for the Royal, so you can level up there's the ways to level up all sorts of your personality stats.
Anyway, so this RPG varies a lot from other traditional RPGs, I feel like. So I grew up playing, like, Final Fantasy, right? This game, the stats are not the same. The names for the magic is totally different.
They're really weird.
But, like, once you understand what the names for the magic are, then it's not an issue as much anymore,
like
because it's like an equation, just like it is in Final Fantasy or anything like that. I'm just gonna use Final Fantasy as my example.
Yeah, like Fire Aga
I love that
is
game.
like a Gailon or something like that, or a Maragi. There's all different versions.
Yeah, so there's different versions of that, and I think one thing that really threw me off about this game at first was the different status elements. Ailments in this game are totally different than what you would expect. You get
so weird.
You get, like, brainwashed. You can get fear.
Even SMT1 had some really weird ones. Like happy was a bad thing. So Panic.
Well, yeah. So you got dizzy, forget and sleep,
hunger,
normal,
brainwash,
rage,
despair.
Like, these are not typical things that you think about. You can eat a lollipop to cure despair, if anybody's wondering.
Bayonetta.
I think just traditionally, I'm used to only playing with 3 characters, and in this game you have 4. So that's always nice, and you can help plan out your attacks a little bit better. How you collect different personas, and that you're the only character that can do that. So that's also something a little bit different, than, like, Pokemon, I want to say.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say, the other Persona games are like that as well. The protagonist is the only one who gets the recruit. The others just have their own unique ones, from my understanding. They're maybe, like, 1 and 2 or something. Those are the ones I know the least about, but yeah, these, like, they have their own character of a Persona demon that is exclusively theirs, and you can level it up to another version if you hang out and max that Confidant. So, further incentive to do things like that, because some of them are really busted. I'm looking at you. Oh my god.
On is like your black mage.
Yeah.
She's always got, like, crazy high
fire attacks
MP,
and then stuff
SP.
to make her next attack, like, even stronger.
So in this game they call it SP, and I'm going to call it MP, and I apologize for that now.
Everybody knows.
But it's totally different than, like, Shin Megami Tensei. So this is one of those big things that I think is a big difference between the two games is, in this game you have one character that can control multiple personas and fight with them, but you're not fighting with them all at once, whereas SMT, you have them on your party.
Yeah, you recruit them and they are your party. So that's kind of basic, but instead, in this instance, say this whole dungeon that Kim is in uses lots of fire attacks. Well, Kim can then choose, as Joker, to have a persona that kind of whenever you have a persona, you take on their abilities and their stats.
Right.
So she could choose one of them that will drain fire if it's hit by fire, meaning that if she's hit with any of the fire attacks that are incoming, she will heal.
So, like,
not even just, like, repel it, you can reflect
Joker
it.
becomes
he becomes
that status of that persona.
Yeah, think of it like the whole gimmick with the masks. It is like another version of the character. You need to, like, see it that way. Even though these demon characters are all being kind of recycled from demons from Shin Megami Tensei.
True. So that's also something that's, like, very unique about the SMT series and Persona in general.
Yeah, you've got to instigate and, like, interrogate your way through, either convincing them to give you money like you just did, or getting them to
join your party. This isn't like Pokemon level stuff where you just beat them down and throw Pokeballs at them,
You can't beat them down first. You actually, in SMT, you can just start talking at any point, and the only downside is if you fail in the interrogation, they will just not give you a turn and suddenly start attacking you, and you lost a turn, and that was the downside.
Right.
In Persona 5, at least, you have to knock down all of the enemies. I think that was also a thing in Persona 3 when I played that.
I think so.
You have to knock them down first, and you knock them down by hitting them with something that they are weak to. And some are not weak to anything, and you just need to get lucky with, like, crits.
Right.
It's a thing. And for those, you probably just want to fuse and learn how to combine and make different demons and personas. I'm saying both interchangeably, but they're the same thing. And there's calculators online that will show you how to do it, because there are so many combinations, it's nuts. Like, if you've seen how Digimon works with how many different possibilities with each one, SMT is way bigger than that. There's so many in these games. It's crazy.
The next thing I kind of wanted to hit on is your confidants, which is more like talking about like the school life and how much they integrate with the metaverse and what you're doing in battle. So Alex is saying like you keep seeing On do a thing every once in a while, and that's because I leveled her up outside of it.
I think it's called sexy technique.
This is a high school girl, guys.
Yeah.
Calm down.
Nice one.
You have the people on your party, of course, you can talk to outside of the metaverse, I guess. But the real world? Should I call it the real world?
We should call it that, because they don't call it the metaverse in the other games. Yeah,
no, they don't.
In 4, it's called like the Midnight Channel. 3, I don't remember. You went into like this giant tower of your school that only showed up at midnight
right,
or something.
So they've all got their own personality.
Yeah, they all have their own reason of how you go into basically the demon world and what that world is and how it.
Right.
Yeah, that's the only reason that the Persona games have like a mesh where they are a series, kind of like Final Fantasy. They don't like 1, then 2, then 3. So you can jump right into any of them, and they're all their own thing.
Exactly. Yeah. So each of those confidants, you hang out with them outside in the real world, and you get points to them every single time you hang out with them. And at one point, they level up, and then when they level up, you get a certain ability that affects you when you're playing in the metaverse in this game,
which we're in right now.
Which can help. Like, yeah, we're in.
She's effectively inside of what's called a palace,
yes.
which is like a dungeon for a particularly despicable person, and it's kind of considered your dungeon for like the month or so.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a big story thing that you have to overcome it.
So another thing, this is how it all interlinks, and I just kind of found, like, started to understand this, I feel like, recently, which is a little bit sad, but you also have social stats. And when you're in the real world, you've got to, like, stat up, like, your knowledge. You got to be smart. You got to be proficient. And
you gotta still do your essays and...
Right, so they've all got different levels of that as well. I think each of them has 5 levels.
But there's points. I don't think even the video that I did even said anything about personality stats, and that really matters, because that's how you're choosing how to spend your time. You'll figure out, say, like, because people don't like me at school, if I go to the library and study, I'll get guts points on top of knowledge.
Right.
Or, like, if I go to the batting cages or something, or there's all sorts of places you can go and you can level up, like, your charm. Or what are the other ones? There's,
It's, charm, knowledge, proficiency.
Proficiency, yeah.
Guts.
The other one was kindness. And, like, you can level that up by, like, going out of your way to buy, like, fertilizer and stuff for your plants at your house. So, based on how you live in the normal life, you're leveling up those stats, which will matter for certain checks in the game. Like, for example, there's this shady back alley gun salesman guy, and you need to have enough guts. And it's high. It's like, you need guts 4 in order to even ask the guy, or be brave enough to ask the guy something about having real weapons, or like props that look like real weapons, because that's another thing in the Persona games. You're not actually using real guns in here, since it's all like the imagined cognition world. You have a gun that looks real enough, and as long as the enemy thinks it's real, it fires. And you have to only like have so many bullets, which is another thing they actually, I'm glad that they changed for Royal. You only had so many bullets while you were in the metaverse, and you would run out of them quickly, and it made me never want to shoot my gun. But now they made it so each interaction, it's not like this demon who you just beat told another one, oh, he shot, his handgun 3 times, and she shot her AK like 15 times. No, you get your gun bullets back because they're not there. They were never there. So that's another interesting thing. But yeah, that's why you would want to hang out with other people and manage those social stats.
Right, so your social stats, that's kind of what you're getting at. So your social stats allow you to engage with more and other confidants, which give you more abilities to use in the demon world, I guess we're going to call it.
Yeah, I think you understand and appreciate it more now because you'd finished the game the first time, and now you're doing it basically a replay, and you already now have that knowledge that when you go and hang out with this person, it's going to give you this ability soonest. Right. Now you're trying to figure, okay, wait, do I go hang out with this guy, or I saw him early, I didn't know he could get this early. Or it's like,
I gotta go level up my guts really early so that way I can get in there and get these certain gun abilities and modify stuff.
Mm-hmm. So that's probably the big thing about the game is each day what you choose to do is entirely up to you. you could choose to blow off...
Unless it's totally automatic, then it's not up to you.
Yeah, right. You could choose to blow off going to the palace altogether until the last possible day. Well, they'll force you to do it, and then if you don't do it in one go, you are in trouble. So you need to either like be chipping away at it or play like Kim and try and go in one go like this and have to fight through the SP problems and the health problems.
Yeah,
but,
so we can talk about that a little bit more. In
time. Days are important in the game.
Days are very
important. That's why
important.
you would want to fight to try and do it.
I think if I would have had a little bit more of the understanding the first time I played it, I would have appreciated more that you are affecting so much of your RPG aspect of it by hanging out with these confidants and getting your social stats up and doing that correctly.
Especially the ones that you probably want to fight with the most.
So the next thing I kind of want to hit on are just like quality of life changes that the Royal did that now I think every single RPG ever needs to do. So when you go and open a chest and it's got an item for one of your team members, they just ask you and they're like, hey, do you want me to just equip that? It's better than what I got. And you just automatically equipped it and you're done. You don't have to remember, I just got this weapon.
Yeah, I saw her do that in the game. Like, Ryuji pops up like, hey, that's better than what I'm wearing. You want me to put it on now? And I'm like, why doesn't every game do that? Wow!
Another improvement was that Morgana will pop on the screen after you've knocked down.
Like when we have a hold up that you've seen in here a few times so far.
Right. So when you've got that hold up and you're trying to talk to them to get their power, Morgana will come on the screen and tell you, oh, this persona's feeling depressed.
It's
or
scared.
Sad or scared.
It's intimidated. It wants to retreat. It'll give you a hint.
I feel like if you haven't played it, you don't understand how big of a help that is when you're trying to talk to a persona to get their power.
It's not like you have to figure out how just this species reacts when you say certain things. Each one has different personalities. And then sometimes based on, like, there's so many factors. I feel like it's their HP, whether or not they have a status ailment. They all act differently on top of that. So having that help from Morgana is huge.
Yeah, it's a big
a Galio, yes. That's a strong fire to a single.
Finally, yeah. It's medium. But that's okay.
Oh, right, yeah, there is a strong. In SMT1, there was no medium, so never mind.
So I guess this is going back to a quality of life thing with your confidants, though. So after you've hang out with a confidant and you just ranked up, they will actually give you a phone call afterwards and you can answer their question and they will get points to their next confidant level. So it helps you to max out more confidants in Royal. Well, it only happens after you've done a rank up.
Okay.
So you cannot physically get enough points.
I see.
So every time you rank up a confidant in this game, it actually starts their number back at 0 again.
Yeah.
So
think of them like experience. It's kind of like that. So yeah, and once you level up though, nothing rolls over. You start at 0 and you have to go get another 10 points or something.
But the phone calls really help with that. You can also assist on in class now, so you're actually sitting behind one of your team members in class, and sometimes she gets called on, and you can actually help her answer the question, which gets you a charm point and a point towards on. Usually too.
Double up. A lot of them, little changes like that she's told me about, because there's probably too many to even mention. There's a lot of them that just help you level up your social stats and get extra bonus points for other characters very quickly. And I think that helps encourage players to not feel like they've got to play on safety, which is what I recommended. And I think people could just jump into this on normal, even if it's their first time, just because of how many things they've added into this.
Right, like you'd already mentioned earlier, like the crossword puzzle, that gets you a point for knowledge and it doesn't take up any time. So those kind of things are like valuable assets when you're playing these games, is anything that you can get that'll get you a point up in a social stat without taking up a full evening.
Yeah.
Do it.
Do it.
Because you can also go to like the TV and answer a question and it'll get you knowledge points.
A lot of times though, you don't know what you have access to, and you might accidentally progress the day just by doing something. So checking a guide to see what other people do, so for like your first month or so, is probably really good just to get you acquainted with the things you should be checking on.
Right.
Like smoothies. We didn't even know that was like as powerful as it was.
But they also cost 5,000 yen, so know that.
They're expensive, but you're paying for the time that you're not spending. That's the thing.
Exactly, you're not
time is the
spending all
most
that time.
valuable asset in the game. Is how you choose to allot your time for stats.
Man, there's so many things in the way. I mean, we've got new confidants, which give you abilities sometimes at the beginning of battles.
Whole new characters.
Whole new characters. Oh boy, she's really weak to ice. And I think he was weak to ice.
He drains ice. He just hit you with ice. What did you think that was going to
Oh my gosh, sorry. Okay. I couldn't remember.
Showtime.
Showtime. Okay,
This
so
is another
here,
new
we're
thing.
going to show a new thing for Royal.
They have like cutscene attacks where two characters can basically come together, do some funny little thing, and basically you just annihilate the enemies. And Kim got really lucky in having this show up when it did because she just gave the enemy HP.
Right, yeah, was not paying attention to that.
So like I mentioned, drain is a thing, and you don't know what their stats are until you hit them or recruit them, and then you've got the whole thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
With this power.
So it's another like reason why you would kind of want to fill your Pokedex so that there aren't surprises for you, and you kind of know what's coming.
Exactly. It's always helpful to have that kind of information. There's so many new things in Royal. Fuck, I gotta talk about.
We can't.
I have to at least hit on. There's a character now in the metaverse when you're going in there called I call him Jose, but it might be Josie. I don't know. What happens now is when you're in the metaverse, before you would kind of have to get kicked out after a certain time because you'd run out of SP and you're like, you can't go on. He actually gives you an option to collect these flowers. Pay him the flowers, and you can buy SP items to stay in the metaverse longer.
With regular currency. Current's just regular money. And
it's with these flowers that you collect.
Okay.
And now those flowers can't roll over, so once you leave, they disappear.
Okay.
So you use them up and you get new items.
So it's there to help you play through the whole palace in a night, basically.
Right. Well, the metaverse. It's not in the palace.
Oh, it's not in palaces. It's just in Mementos?
In Mementos, yes, sorry.
Okay, I thought, because you said before there were like different, 3 different items you could find in each
Those
one.
are different.
That's, okay.
Okay, so what those 3 different items are, they added this little kind of collectathon aspect to the palaces. They're called will seeds, and you collect 3 of them, and you combine them together and you get an item that gives you a really awesome ability. And then if you take them to that same kid I was just talking about, he makes them into a stronger item, which then you can equip and get better abilities for.
I see. So if you miss it, you miss it. So you really want to get those.
You really want to get those every time you're in a palace, for sure. I think I've already found one for this palace because you can see it on this map.
Oh, is that 2? Oh, yeah, the little check mark. I see.
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
So you're looking for 2 more of those little skull things.
Right.
Oh, you think we can keep going? We can. We really shouldn't, though. Just take our word for it. Even if we forgot it, there's a lot of things that they've done. On top of the fact that it's just a really, really great game. I didn't even get a chance to say as much as I wanted to when I did review the game because I was only limited to like 12 minutes and just saying like, hey, it's an RPG, but it doesn't play like any RPG you've ever seen before. It's really strange, but it's also really fun and it's really polished. Though, speaking of the polish, we can probably finally move on to
graphics.
Yes, the graphics. And I did mention before, this game loads faster on the Switch than the PS4. Wow, this game looks pretty.
Well, the PS4, as I've learned over years, takes forever to load if you don't have, like, the Pro version.
Yeah.
So
I'm pretty sure it was the Pro that I was seeing comparisons to for the speed for this. But
I think it was.
Yeah, I mean, this is Atlus's most recent version. They don't simply just port something. They want to make sure that it runs beautifully.
It is, like, the best version of itself that can be. You talked about in your original review how like it's a little jarring sometimes when you go from like a nice anime cutscene to back to their
the 3D models.
The 3D model animation, just because it just doesn't always translate well, but I feel like it has its own little charm to it. I really don't have any problem with it anymore. Like I used to complain about it.
I think I feel a little more validated in complaining like that because I have seen Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and it looks flawless.
Is beautiful. But this is
but they never animated
anything. This is a game from 2010.
I'm sure she meant to say 16 because the Royal came out in 2019. I know, but it had Xenoblade 3 done animation and then gone back to the models, I might have felt that weird jarring change.
Is it 2012?
I don't remember. The number popped up on screen for sure.
In Royal, they give you new like drawing animations. I remember you walked in on me playing one time and you were like, oh, I haven't seen that artwork before. So like they updated artwork to
like these profile arts that we see like Ryuji right now.
Where they're talking.
Yeah, they'll change different versions. I wonder why it said Ryuji and not Skull. for the metaverse. You're supposed to use.
No, it always says their regular names.
Oh, it does? Okay, yeah. I'm just now realizing that. But yeah, there's like different like model directions that they didn't have to do any of that. Like there was no reason for them to do it. And
for like if somebody calls you on the phone, they added their art to the screen now instead of it just being like blank and like text.
Yeah.
So like that little thing.
It's really nice.
What we just saw with like the new Showtime animations, we got all those new graphical update kind of things.
Look at like the text boxes. Look at the menus and the map even. And even how simple and clean the bottom right is, showing your HP and your SP. I'm not going to make the mistake.
I'm totally going to do that.
But no, doesn't it look like really simple, but it's also really artsy and it looks great?
And you can read things and understand it, and it's not a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the game is beautiful looking. Don't judge it because it's super anime looking.
Yeah, it's actually farther than like that crazy ambush like pops up on screen. It's nuts.
And the game's in your face.
Someone's weak to fire. Sure. Baton passed on and burn them.
It's funny because she's lovers too.
Oh yeah. Oh right, yeah, you can just do it because Joker can use anything, and it's. And oh here, no. Since we just mentioned, if you knock down all the enemies, now Kim has the ability. She can either talk to this one.
Right.
She
have
can.
This one?
Is that actually her name?
Yeah, that's her name.
Then you would.
I don't know if I have it on my being though.
Well, if you see its name, then you have had it at one point. And
I know that, again. But like if you get it on your being, like you can fuse it again later for something else.
But you have to pay for it. But since she's in this position, she could just get it for free, right?
Nah.
Kill him.
I mean, this is another artsy like animation thing in your face.
Well, here, 3D model, 2D art, and I think that looks good.
Yeah, that's great.
It's when it went the other way. That was when I was mentioning it looked a little weird. And I think I got a great side-by-side in the video itself where I show, like, Joker's first time in the Velvet Room behind the bars. And then right after that, they cut to 3D models, and it looks very different. It looks weird. You only notice it when things drop in quality, but if they go up, you know, like the Showtime thing, we just saw, like, whoa, it's great.
Right.
Game looks really nice. I also really like when you're in the metaverse and you're running around. Did you notice there's like colorful paint splatters like splashing all over the place, and like the vignetting of the how do you describe it, like kaleidoscope effect they have on the edges of the screen, just so you know you're not in the real world. Well, right now there's this, which I actually appreciate, is like a detective mode from Batman Arkham Asylum, but it's not detective mode from Arkham Asylum, which if you played that game, there was no reason to ever leave detective mode, because you would just hold down a button, see everything, and the action, like you would actually see better than the normal version of graphics. This
just kind of highlights you though and makes it really dark so you can't see. So
you wouldn't want to play with it on perpetually. It would be horrible. But playing with it like this is just showing you where those little points are.
Anything else for graphics?
It looks really pretty.
I said that.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I don't know if we fully mentioned this new thing for the Royal. There's certain glowing enemies now that if you don't kill them fast enough, they'll blow up on your side of the party.
I just don't think they're much of a quality in life improvement. So
no, it's not quality of life. It's just new stuff. Like they didn't have to add any of this stuff. They didn't. But I think it just adds to the game because now it makes these random encounters feel different. You could have fought 2 high pixies and an Oni, and it would have been completely different from the way you played this one, where there's one that's gonna blow, and then you intentionally went for that one to knock out the other and do heavy damage to the Oni.
So it gets to change how you're strategically
it's changing how you play, and I think that's really cool. If you do something very, very small, but it adds a lot more to the gameplay. We went back to the gameplay again. So we're just gonna move on. The gameplay is great, and the graphics are great. The story is another thing that I really couldn't talk about too much, and I still feel like I don't want to spoil anything past the point where I had stopped in the video I did for the review, which was basically saying you start the game infiltrating a palace with basically your full party. I say basically because Royal's a thing. But anyway, you infiltrate this palace and you're captured and imprisoned, and from prison you are telling your story of how you got to that point through an interrogation of yourself. So this is basically all a flashback that you're playing, explaining everything. And once you get up to that point again, where you're infiltrating that palace and know that you're going to get captured at the end of it, the game is really only, just the base game, is only 2/3 done by that point. There's way more after that, and of course, this adds a ton more to it too. A whole other school semester. There's so much more that they put into it. So the story, I think, is just, it's huge, yes, but I think it's written really well, where you like the characters because of the way they're written, and they got really great voice actors.
And then, they have fantastic, which is what I was going to get into in the music section.
Yeah, we can just kind of carry in that, it's fine.
Well, I mean, like, we were still talking about the story stuff. I remember, like, in your review, you were saying, like, well, you just want to fantasize about changing people's hearts now. So in Persona 5, because they're all the personas, you're doing different things. But in this one, you're going into this cognitive world, and you're changing how people act. Ran through a security camera.
The security camera saw you. It's another aspect of the game we didn't mention. There's like a percentage of how alert the person is that you're invading. It's under our face cam, but you can see that 10% when Kim held that button down. Right. And the more ambushes she gets on enemies, the lower it will go, and the higher it gets from her being caught or ambushed herself, or, you know, security cameras or things see her, and it gets to 100, it will automatically boot her from the palace for the day.
I still haven't found a safe room in here. Anyway.
Yeah,
I think it was, I'm like so distracted.
I think it was down the elevator. It was a long way down. I remember this palace being really long.
Can get more.
So yeah, you're going in, you're changing basically the scum of the earth. You're trying to make them confess to all their sins, which
they
is
are
just
awful people. This game's rated M for a reason. They are awful people.
Right.
None of them you feel bad about, like, going straight into their brain.
But it's still, like, at the same time, they start questioning, like, is this the right thing or the wrong thing to be forcing people to do this? So,
exactly, yeah. And they do delve into that a lot, but what I find more interesting is how they're handling the characters themselves and their day-to-day interactions, because you would think, and this is a large part of the game too, Ryuji texts you and says he wants to go get some ramen.
Right.
And you spend, like, the night doing that. And it's still funny. There's, like, weird little interactions. You still level up something for your RPG. And there's all sorts of little things that still make it feel rewarding to do that and not just want to play the RPG part for the entire time. Because otherwise you might just be, like, you know, planning out what you want to do for the whole week, but you really are, like, invested in the story because of the way that the characters are written, and they're all very believable, though each one palace at a time as you slowly gain your whole party through the game. You are kind of giving them one character arc at a time, and you're really, like, say An, for example, is really getting her character arc in the first palace.
Well, An and Ryuji both kind of had their character arc in the first palace.
I want to say it, yeah, it's really both, you're right. So you get both of them, and after that point, they don't really change too much, but they've established their character and you know them so well that their interactions with everything else to come is really interesting. And it still feels like they're real people and they're not just like this dead in the water, like, character archetype that is just like, Ryuji's like, I'm the athletic jock one. And An's like, I'm the attractive one who was harassed by a teacher. And you know, there's so much more to them than just what you first saw. And then once you level
up, like, those confidants, like you said, when you're talking outside with them, you're learning so much more about their stories and, like, who they are before they met you. Like, you get their character arc in that palace, but then when you finish up the confidants, you learn way more about who they are personally.
Yeah, Kim just got a rare one here too. That's actually pretty cool. That was in the base game too.
I don't know what it's weak to though.
Ooh, yeah, you really want to knock those things down and try and recruit them because they used to make really great stuff. You can turn them into new personas. Oh, no, I'm sorry. You can turn them into items too. I just know that they're really great, and you always want them when you see them. They're just hard to figure out how you knock them down without looking it up.
You're right.
Though, even if you fail, you can see it's dropping money each time, so it was still...
You're still getting cash.
Yeah, you're still getting something out of it.
I wanted to talk about a little bit about the differences between the stories in Persona and the stories versus SMT, because I'm listening to you play SMT, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, what is wrong with your game?
It is crazy.
But, like, Persona
I gotta review one of those.
Persona seems not as outlandish, I guess, but it is. But it's not as, like,
not outlandish as in, like, over-the-top anime. That's actually Persona's gig. SMT is more like, oh my god, they put that in a video game? I will explain it when we get to that point, but yeah.
I mean, that's where we're at. We're to the story section.
I know. The thing is, all the villains in Persona 5... I think you hate them because they feel like real people and you know someone like that. And they're all like different aspects of terrible traits of human beings and like things that people have done. And it kind of gives you that extra drive to work through the whole thing. You are not knocking them down, are you?
I'm trying everything.
All right, well, here's the silly cutscene again. So far, this is the only one you have, right?
Yeah, they say they give them to you progressively as the game goes on. But it can only be activated by either Anna or Morgana. So one of the two has to be on the party at the time. So like Morgana's not on my party, but he can still be part of that attack.
Oh, right, yeah, that makes sense. I was kind of confused, like what you meant by that, but yeah, I get you. Because they're still physically behind you, even though you can't swap them out, like FF10, right? Where can you do that?
FF10, you flip flop, you swap out constantly.
Yeah, I didn't think you could do that in this one. So like, say if Makoto goes down, you can't just say, "Hey, Yusuke," and he just like
you can't.
Drags her corpse off, and he jumps in and starts fighting himself. No, that's. I wish that was in here. But most RPGs should do that, though it does break the difficulty.
So, I know you mentioned before that you did kind of want to hit a little bit on the story with Igor.
Yeah, so this is the only thing I want to mention that's a little bit of a spoiler, and I mean little bit. I'm going to try to not ruin this for you guys, but still, you might not even know what I'm talking about if you've already played the game. So, the Japanese voice actor for Igor, Isamu Tanunaka. Okay, thanks.
He had been the voice actor for Igor since Persona 3.
Yes.
Not even the updated one.
And
3.
He actually passed away, I believe, while they were working on the game.
Yeah, since Persona 3 had passed away while they were in the process of working on Persona 5.
They actually found a creative way to implement that into the game itself, and it has somehow, of course, had to come over and be translated into the English version of the game, which is what we're playing. So basically what their solution was they had a new voice actor do Igor, which nobody was going to find suspicious in the least because the voice actor had passed away. Well, it turns out later in the game that the voice of Igor that you had been hearing was not really him. It was some sort of an imposter. I'm just gonna leave it at that. And the real Igor reveals himself later in the game, and they managed, in the Japanese one, to have him voice the rest of the game by using past lines from the other Persona games. That's so cool! So they managed to figure out how to get like the original guy to come back and do it. And they kind of do the same thing, sort of, in Persona 5, where there's like a different Igor voice, very different from what I had remembered from Persona 3. So I'm not sure about him from 4. I assume they tried to faithfully do the same thing, even though, of course, it's not like that voice actor passed away or anything, but it was still just to kind of honor what that transition was. So yeah, it's a really interesting way that like real life situations are going to change how you make a video game in general, just because you can't have all these people around forever. Things are just going to happen.
From what I read, Persona players had picked up Persona 5 and they heard that voice. It was really jarring for them.
Yeah.
But they knew, because they were concerned, because they were like, Atlas is really going to have to find someone faithful. And then when they didn't, but then, the whole twist happens.
Then you play far enough and you're like, oh my god!
Oh, okay.
That's so cool. But, of course, you can't do it more than once. In Persona 6, it's just going to be a different voice, or someone mimicking him. There's no other way to do it.
Yeah.
Every time you see a really good Persona drop to their knees, you're like, oh, I gotta do this right.
I know. So, yeah, the next thing was just kind of music. Yeah, which is
Oh, yeah, that was actually a great transition to the music.
Right,
that was the sound
I almost consider, music just the sound design section. I don't even think about.
Yeah, in my reviews, I should have just called it sound design, but music, it's the audio, whatever.
Right.
So, Kim, what do you think about the music? I actually didn't say a word about the music in my review.
No, you didn't. You just danced to it. And then I suggested, should that just be the same for us doing HITBOX? Should we just be dancing to the music?
This random content just plays and you just dance to the music again. I mean... Actually, they added a lot of music in Royal.
They did add this. Actually, this music that we're listening to right now is a new track for this game. I'm a little sad I don't get to hear
Last Surprise
as much, but I also understand...
Some people actually complained about that.
I could see that.
I mean, I actually had a problem with it too, because right when the song starts getting good, it was by the time I'd already beaten all the enemies and I just moved on. And I was like, I wanted to hear that. It was just getting to the good part, and then you move on and it starts from the beginning again.
Thank you.
So, like, yeah, I totally get why they were like, let's add a few more tracks. And, like, this isn't the only other track. There's also, like, a non-vocal track that plays now. And you will still get Last Surprise occasionally because I do miss it because it's a great song.
And if you put on certain outfits, like the characters' DLC outfits, it will play certain music with them. Oh my, yeah, there's so many great ones. Let's just leave it at that. There's so many great ones, but we don't have time to dig into them all because we're already over time.
So then we'll just briefly talking about the English voice acting is phenomenal. I mean, like, the voice actor for Ryuji, he always sells his lines.
Yeah, he's a very familiar voice. He does a lot of stuff. Like, he does One Punch Man. I even recently found he was in our baby girl's Curious George movie. I was like doing something like in the background, washing some dishes, and my ears perked up like, Ryuji? Like, oh my god, he's on Curious George.
He's on so many different things.
I know.
So many.
They're all great. I actually really think that...
not saying that,
even Joker, who barely has any lines, Xander Mobius, he is great. Because he also has to call on every single persona in the game.
Every single... Yeah, you would think, oh, he doesn't have the main voice acting lines. Mm-hmm. Oh, he does.
He also plays Arsene.
Well, yeah.
And he plays Master Hand and the announcer in Super Smash Brothers, making it super weird in that game where he announces his own character. Side note, sorry, nobody cares about that.
Oh, yeah, see, here's one of those instances.
Oh, yeah, they're like,
I found an item for Makoto, and she's like, do you want me to wear it?
Oh, this performs better than what I have now.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I understand.
And I can see that they want to give you the option, because sometimes... now, I don't know about this game in particular, but there's a lot of RPGs where you'll have like a really good ability on an armor piece and not just stats. Or maybe some of them give you like really high in one stat, but it'll deplete another one. And overall, it's better, but you might want that character's other stats. So
yeah, but typically
they give you the option.
Happen with weapons in this game as much.
Yeah, not so much. Normally, it's just like a net gain.
Right, like with weapons anyway. And it's really the accessories and the armor that's where you're getting more of those abilities from than anything else.
You know, I just kind of peeked at your notes, and I find it funny, and I appreciate that the game's music is actually done in English, because I know a lot of games where the music is in Japanese, and I just can't appreciate it as much because I don't know what they're saying.
But it's still good music.
It's still really good, yeah. Like, I think of like the opening to Kirby and the Forgotten Land. That's really great, but I have no idea what's being said.
It's the music, it's great. I love it. I listen to it on loop, like, all the time.
Like the entire soundtrack.
Yeah. And just to hit, because we didn't even talk about Strikers. Yes, the music is just as good in Persona 5 Strikers as it is in the original Persona game. So
I knew she was going to bring up Strikers.
To bring it up.
I was like, we can't bring up Strikers. There's so much we have to talk about just in Persona 5. But Persona 5 Strikers, just very quickly, it's basically one of those Dynasty Warriors knockoffs games, but it's
not a knockoff game, I feel like.
It was heavily helped by Atlas, and it is way better than what I expected.
Anime cutscenes, the story.
It's really just like Persona 5 Part 2.
Yes.
And it just keeps going. It's great. Anyway, we're going to try and do a sell it section. I think I have successfully done all that I could for trying to sell this game. If you're not sold on it now and you haven't played it, I don't know what I can do to help you. But Kim, you do your best.
I mean, if you're really intimidated by RPGs and the fact that there is like
the time mechanic. Yeah.
Atlas gives you safety mode. They understand and appreciate, like...
Yeah, if it's giving you anxiety...
time.
Yeah. Like, enjoy the game.
Just enjoy the game the way that you want to enjoy that. And I actually did. I started Persona 5 Strikers in normal and then switched it to safety because I was getting really hung up on things and I just wanted to do the story. So don't feel any shame in that. I think that's my biggest thing. Yes, be prepared to use online guides if you're playing this game. You can play it without online guides,
yeah, there's actually an alternative to online guides. If you have online on whatever system you're playing this on, there's, I think they call it the Thieves Guild, where you can see online statistics of what other players did on any given day, whether they challenged their palace on this day or more players hung out with Makoto this day as opposed to doing other things. And it will give you good hints of what to do without looking anything up. Because if you don't want to have guides up on your phone telling you what to do, that's a great way around it, where you just kind of see statistics of what other players were doing. Because generally, the majority are going to be making good decisions for what your player is just going to do in general. Because you really could do almost anything, and it's hard to mess the game up. It's not like you're going to have a broken game by the end of it and not have any time because you hung out with the wrong people or something. there's going to be good things you get no matter what.
Luckily with games these days, we are able to also put things in sleep mode and walk away and our game be fine, which is a huge benefit for games like this because you'll have those automatic days where you can't always save in time.
And
so
you
don't
have
be
a
intimidated by that
who's trying
either.
to kill herself and run around the room and somersault.
The cat.
She really does like the cat, yeah. She likes the red and black, too. She really likes watching this game. And just being able to pick it up on the Switch is huge compared to the PS4, because before I had to play it solely on the PS4, and now, we didn't have her at the time, but I was basically only playing this game at night, because the only time I could just sit down and try
and not do anything.
Yeah, right, because I couldn't do anything for a long time, but now that you can sleep mode it, it's a lot less intimidating. Okay, moving on. That's it. Play the game. That's my sell it section.
That's my select section. Don't be intimidated.
Ooh, most dodged that, but did not end well for Makoto.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, bummer that Morgana can't drag the corpse out and jump out now.
I know, that would be very much
it would be broken too, because then you have a party of what, like 8 by the end of the game or something.
Yeah.
So, anyway, rate it. I mentioned at the beginning of this, I was kind of harsh on it, I think, when I first rated it.
I feel like Royal made a lot of improvements in quality of life things.
The little things I griped about in the video as Hamster were like not just touched on, but like reworked in Royal in a big way. So I feel like it's not fair to give them both the same score. I still think that's fair for Persona 5 base. But if I'm going to alter it for Royal, I think Bomb would stay the same. Bomb gave it a 9 out of 10. And I think that Hamster is going to change to a 10. I think it jumps that much up. It's like they gave you no reason to complain about anything in this version. It's so polished. It runs so well, especially on Switch. You can take it anywhere.
I can take it anywhere.
It's so much better. And the game wasn't even bad at all to begin with. It was a great game, and now it's an outstanding game.
I know. I feel like we talk about quality of life improvements. You say those kind of things like about a bad game.
I know.
But no, this was a really good game that is now even more amazing.
It's
like
more
it's
fun.
better.
Yeah. I don't know how this is going to affect an episode we have planned for the next Hitbox, which just a minor tease for that. We're planning on going through the first 100 episodes of Playing With Myself and talking about all the games that I rated a 10 out of 10 and trying to rank them.
So is this not rated a 10 then at all?
I think because of this Hitbox episode, we can talk about it for the 10 out of 10, because I think Persona 5 Royal deserves to be a 10 out of 10. It's a shame that at the time I was reviewing it, I just wanted to talk about the game and review the game. I didn't have time to get the PS4 Pro version and like play all of the whole game again. It's a big game. This is a long game. So I had no time to get through it. I just like did the research on what was added in with Royal, but didn't like see it firsthand to go, wow, that fixes so much or just adds so much to the game already. Yes. So what would you rate this, Kim?
Oh, that's really hard. I wasn't even thinking about rating.
Yep, I'm gonna make you do it.
It's another one of those games again where I never would have imagined that's gonna be in my top 10 list, but I love it. I kept like saying, no, Persona's not one of my favorite, Persona 5, it's not one of my favorite games, it's not.
Then I'll ask her to make a top 5 video games list and she names it like 3rd. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not one of your favorite games ever?
It's not one of my favorite games.
You always put it on that list.
I think it's like I didn't want it to be because I had missed out on so much of its life, the series' life already as it is.
You could have been playing it on PS1 too. That's the funny thing.
That's the painful part.
That was like your first home console that was yours too.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So yeah, that's just kind of a painful thing, but it is on my top list.
Positive Kim.
Positive Kim, I think.
Yeah, how much fun you have with it.
I think I give it a 10. Like, even if I'm sitting there looking through all my different web pages on how to play the game, I'm still enjoying it, so I'm not...
I think that was the only reason Hamster was a little butthurt at the end of playing it, was because like I needed 4 tabs on my phone to play this game. But it was because it was my first one,
But
too.
You know what? I also... Right, like, this is my second round playing this, so now I'm doing a day-by-day guide because I want to experience everything.
And we don't have internet for this. We don't have the Switches online for her account.
Right, so, like,
Yeah, that's really what it is. I think, she doesn't have Thief Guild, so she has the tab on her phone.
I think my critical will probably be a 9 just because of that.
Yeah.
But But see, like, I also
so that's the
really
opposite of mine. That's weird.
I also really enjoy it as a 10 because I like now seeing my day-to-days and complaining, and I'm like, they want me to do that?
Yeah.
Like, why would they want me to do that? And then, like, later on, I understand it, and then I share that information with you, so when you play it, if you don't play with a guide, you can just, like, understand, do these things at these times.
I remember Kim complaining at first, like, they want me to drink a smoothie for 5,000 yen? Why are they making me do this? And then, like, I walk away, I'll do something, I'll come back downstairs, and she's like, Alex, I'm getting so many stats for free.
I was able to eat the Big Bang Burger in, like, the second month.
Yeah, like, you didn't even finish Kanashiro's Palace, and you were eating the Big Bang Burger. I was like, what's going on?
It's great.
I couldn't beat that by the end of the game. I still couldn't eat that thing. But yeah, it helps a lot.
If you're into RPGs, if you're into, I don't know, really story-heavy games, I guess.
You could say it's story-heavy, but through this entire video, gameplay-wise, you haven't seen a drop of story.
Yeah, they've been talking.
That's not the story. The game is so big that it doesn't really need to be there all the time for you. And the persona she's using right now, I believe, is from 3?
I think it's from 4.
4? One of the two? I'm not sure. I haven't
Maybe 3?
That's it. We swear. We promise. I know this episode's already enormous. I'm going to somehow have to edit this thing down. And Kim really just wanted an excuse to play this game more. She was actually upset this morning that I said, oh, we're going to make a video with Persona 5. Please don't play it up till that point. And she said, I'm going to play my game. I'm going to play my game already. Just play with the baby or something.
The baby likes this game.
You have responsibilities. Anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of HITBOX. If you enjoy the show, you can help us keep it alive by supporting it on Patreon with the links in the show notes in this video's description. For those of you on YouTube, remember to like the video and subscribe for more, and be sure to let us know what you thought of the show and what other topics you'd like to hear us cover in the future, and special thanks to all of our amazing Patreon members.
Bye-bye.